Rob and Robbo.
Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight and David Robinson.
Ben, Rob and Robbo. News and views, entertainment news. It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Here's Rob McKnight.
Hello there and welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show for this glorious Wednesday afternoon. Hope you're having a good day. It's a big show today. We're talking to Hannah from Big Brother. We're also talking to Bruno, and I think everybody who has ever watched this show knows that Wednesdays is my favourite day for this show because we get to talk to Bruno and we get to look at the world through Bruno's eyes, and he will be talking to us about those brands, those companies we've lost over time and how we miss them, and take us for a trip down memory lane. So it'll be interesting to see if you can remember the jingles and the logos and all that kind of stuff. But here to do the talking with me today as we talk hot button issues and so much more, I've got Benjamin Norris and David Robinson with me. Hello, boys. Robbo, what a fetching blanket you're wearing there.
I know, it looks like, it can double as a camping blanket. So if we go out, I'll take my shirt off, we can lay on it, have a lovely picnic, and then I'll put it back on and no one will be none the wiser. On camera, it looked good on the shelf, but no, I actually like it. I like this is a Kmart buy, by the way, $12. You couldn't make it for that.
You can make it for that because there's people in China, kids in China making the clothes that you're wearing on your back. And can I just say, it looks like a $12 top. And this is complete payback for you having a go at my clothing yesterday.
Oh, I'm still on camera. Sorry. Hey Ben, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. I don't know why we're not talking about the colour that Rob McKnight has you set on every day. For some reason today, the colour is so orange that you look like Alf. Like you look like Alf from Melmac. So
is it the nose?
I wonder whether or not.
Is it the nose
or the colour? I don't know what it is. Yeah, I just feel like saying "give me 4" or feeding you a cat. I don't know.
Yeah, I do have the Oompa Loompa Donald Trump look to me, but that's how bitchy Rob McKnight is. He'll do anything to cut me down.
Oh, look, I'm going to go down a little bit. So is this a better height for me?
David,
are we at the same height
just
now?
talk for a moment. Yeah, see, I can mute his microphone. That's the power I have.
No, wait. Put me back on. Oh, hi. Welcome back.
All right, let's get into our hot button topics. And authorities have tested sewage to see what drugs Australians are taking. And it's not good news. Once again, the results show that stimulant use is continuing to rise with record use in both city and regional areas. Australia now ranks third in meth and cocaine use among 30 countries that have comparable data. Ben, are we taking the right approach when it comes to drugs? We always get this war on drugs. But what we're seeing from these results are the fact that this is suburbia. People in suburbs are taking drugs, and is a tough stance the right approach?
Yeah, I think that we probably, I don't know if a tough stance and just beating our chests is the right thing to do. I think that you'll find that a lot of these drugs are linked back to a lot of mental health issues. I think it has a lot to do with men feeling like it's a glamorized thing to use drugs and it's a recreational way of them enjoying life. And I think that comes from, years of glamorizing cocaine and also mental health issues, being that men sometimes feel a little bit inadequate living up to these male bravado types and, sporting heroes and all the rest of it. So I think, if we really want to start talking about the real issues of where drug dependency comes from, I'm not saying it's completely responsible, but I definitely think we need to start looking at men's mental health issues.
I think there's some validity to what you're saying there. One of the things, though...
Oh, thanks.
There's a but coming.
Okay, I got one.
There is validity to what you're saying, but I think we're ignoring the fact of how prevalent drug use is in the suburbs, and it's all not about mental health. Some people just like the stimulant, they like the escape. And, it's like these bins that the New South Wales government put outside of gigs, those events, where I would love to know the results, and I don't think I've ever seen any follow-up from that, where how many people are putting drugs in those bins under the Just Say No banner. The government refuses to do pill testing, and we have to accept in this nation, like alcohol, people take drugs, and we owe it to our society to make it safe. And let's not just be stupid about it. I love this messaging from politicians. Well, just say no, because that's always worked, hasn't it? You know, they banned alcohol and said, just say no. People fought back against that. You can't just have a message of just say no. It does not work. Isn't that right, Robbo? Like, don't we have to try a different approach?
Yeah, we really do, because you're exactly right. The approach that we've got now does not work. The biggest thing here is it does just seem like everyone can beat their chests and say, well, look, meth is on the rise, and ice and, heroin and all this kind of thing. That's great, right? So that's good. We've got that data. Why aren't we using the data to help people? That's the biggest thing. So, we'll see these announcements, and then it will...
Conservative politicians refuse to say we have ways of helping. Look at when Sydney and Melbourne did injecting rooms and the backlash. It was the front page of the Daily Telegraph every day. It's an easy conservative issue. And you know me, I'm very much a centrist. I will go left and right depending on the issue. But on this issue, I think it's down to pure politics. And sorry, Robbo, I interrupted for my rant.
No, that's all right. It is pure politics.
Back,
and you know what? This is, thank you, it is costing lives. It's costing livelihoods. It's costing lives. It's damaging families. All of this, so a conservative government, or any kind of government, actually, forget that. It's not conservative. It's any kind of government that doesn't have the balls to stand up and go, you know what, Sydney has a high rate of cocaine use. Maybe, just maybe, we should invest money into rehab facilities, into ways of actually helping people. For example, what the federal government does, with the ICE hotline and all that kind of thing, it's all rubbish. It's smoke and mirrors. It doesn't actually do anything. That's been well reported, but they're able to get up and say to Ma and Pa in the suburbs, saying, well, look what we're doing. You're not doing anything.
So what do you mean it doesn't work, Robbo? So I'm not across this, I will be honest. So those hotlines that people are told to call, what are they doing wrong?
I think it's not fully set up. It's basically a front, really. So I've read a few reports that basically say that the support doesn't go any much further than the phone call, right?
Right.
That's similar to other hotlines that the government has. Queensland's got one. All state and territories have these numbers, but from all reports, they don't actually go forward. There's no anchor. There's no thread. There's no follow through. But you know what looks good? It looks good on a commercial. Authorised by the federal government, Canberra. It looks really good. So this is the biggest thing. Obviously, all media, as we are, will grab onto this story and say, "Oh, look, this use is up and this use is up." That's great. What are we doing with the information? We're just going to see more police commissioners and people like that just come up and go, "Well, we've got to get tough again." Well, okay, that's not working. That tough approach. So why don't we go? Okay, bloody hell. Hobart has the highest use, or regional WA has the highest use of meth. Let's put a lot of money into regional WA to help people. But that's not what's happening. So I hate this story, but I also love this story that we're hearing about it. But it's the wrong way. And bloody hell, I hope we one day wake up to ourselves and go, these are people that need to be helped. They need to be treated, and they need... What?
I'm confused. Because,
about what?
I feel... Well... I don't know what we're clearly setting out as the reasons why, what are the origins of drugs? Like, where does that sort of come from? Where's the information about people and why they use drugs? I mean, I'm ready to admit that I've used drugs and alcohol in my life, and the use of drugs and alcohol in my life has always increased at times when I have felt inadequate or I have let myself down. And then when I am able to build myself back up again, I'm less likely to rely on drugs and alcohol to sort of facilitate my own ego or my own happiness. And so, look, I think it's about sort of talking about the origins of what drug use is like in Australia. It's all very well and good to say, what's the government? Oh, the government's not helping us. The government's not helping us. But let's look inside ourselves and think about what we can do.
How can we? Wait. How can we possibly do that without government funding or without funding from any kind of body? How can we? So you're going to say to an addict, "Hey, look inside yourself and work out why you do it." And just say no. That's basically the just say no argument.
It costs me nothing to be able to share. It costs me nothing to be able to share the story. And I tell you, opening up and being honest about drugs and alcohol and the reasons as to why people take drugs and alcohol and sharing that story, I think is powerful. And I don't think a lot of people are ready to admit about their drug and alcohol use and the
Sure.
reasons for it. And if we did open up and were honest about that, I think that would save a lot of lives. We're so proud and we put on this image and we're trying to say to people...
But you can't be honest
It's
about
a
it, Ben,
stigma
because
issue. You
it's
can't be
illegal.
honest about it.
It's illegal to take drugs.
And there's stigma. There is a stigma.
Well, come and raid my,
So you can't...
come and raid my house, but I'm telling you
No,
right
but
now that...
you know what I mean? That and we know that you talking about it right here, police aren't going to do anything about it. But the fact is that we have this stigma that is perpetuated by our governments and our police forces that tell you it's bad. We've got premiers saying just say no, and you've just said it there, and I think you're so valid that it's more than just making a choice to take drugs. It does come from self-esteem. It does come from wanting a high or a happiness. And so what you're saying is absolutely right. But what Robbo's saying, I don't think you two are too far from each other. Robbo's just saying there needs more government money and injection, and we need to change the narrative around drug use and look at it from the point of view of what you're saying, but also give the resources to help people. You guys, you're actually very close together on the same path here.
Well, to be fair, I think that in actual fact, both points are quite valid, but without one or the other, I don't really see the point in bringing it up. Like, I think that Robbo's making some valid points there, but without also being honest about who we truly are and about, you know, our own drug and alcohol use, we're not really using our platforms wisely. And I think it's really powerful for me to turn that on myself, talk about drugs and alcohol that I've used in my life, talk about the reasons why, and talk about how I managed to get out of it. I think that is using my platform more powerfully to say that there was certainly times in my life where I suffered depression, and during those times of depression, I was relying on drugs and alcohol to keep myself alive. I was a functioning drug and alcohol user at a certain point in my life after my dad's suicide, and that was because I wasn't coping. And there wasn't anyone out there for me to turn to. Who am I going to turn around and say, hang on a sec, how did I find myself in this situation? But what
That's what I'm talking about. You need funding so that you do have people to turn to. That's what I'm saying. You need the government needs to do more. If they're going to commission these reports that show all of these drugs are being used in the community, then that's what you're saying is you need someone to turn to and to talk to and to help you. And we do these reports, but then we don't follow them up.
You guys are on the same path. And Ben, like, I applaud you standing up and sharing your story today. You know, like it breaks my heart because I see what an amazing person you are. You know, you have overcome a lot. It's just some of the things you've been through, like your dad's suicide and things like that, to having to deal with the immediate fame that came from winning Big Brother and the trolls and the people who didn't like the way you were in Big Brother. And so everything you're saying is very valid. As is what Robbo's saying. The two, to me, need to come together. I love the fact that you're sharing your story on this platform and letting people know they're not the only ones going through such things. But we do need a change of narrative from the government to say, what you went through, we're going to help people just like you going forward. And while there are schemes out there and places you can go, we still get messages from Gladys Berejiklian in New South Wales saying, just say no. Just don't take drugs.
But I want to break it down. I want to break down my point and the reason why I want to talk about it, and the reason why I can see that you pushing me to understanding that both these points are valid, and that is that I never want to be the person who looks above and says, you are the people that need to help me to get there. I want to be the person that needs the help from other people, but is ready to ask for it and to also be honest about who I am.
Yep.
It's not just about the government offering funding. It's about the individual, and it's about the help that they are willing to accept and to acknowledge and to be truthful about. That is like the confluence. There's a confluence of things that need to occur for an individual to overcome their drug and alcohol use. And I'm not.
But once they do that, where are they supposed to go? Once they do that, where are they supposed to go? Because there are not enough facilities. So
I can tell you that using this
platform
right now to talk about drug and alcohol use, me saying that and having people watch me on Big Brother or having people watch me on Ticket Jumpstart or seeing me on this show and seeing that I am this person that I am today, and to admit that I've been through this and that I'm actually, you know, I would never have described myself as an alcoholic or a drug addict. I would never have done that. But I want to talk about the casual use of it. And I want to talk about the reasons why I was doing it. And I want to say to people that to overcome that, I had to admit it in myself before that would even be possible to even reach out to government support. It's a double handed approach that we're going to need to utilize to be able to help people get out of it. I had friends come around to my house. They would wake me up in the morning and they would take me to the gym before I went to work. They would take me to the gym after I went to work. I managed to I stopped drinking. I stopped partying. I stopped going out at all because I was so scared of this downward spiral that I was in. And I want to say to people out there that are struggling with drug and alcohol use that you're not alone. There's plenty of people out there, and it's not something that's going to govern your life. And if you could be honest about your struggle, then you will be able to reach out to government assistance. I don't necessarily think this is just one of those things where it's like, oh, the government's turning a blind eye. I'm not ready to say that.
But there is, but you're saying though, you're saying that when you realize it and you understand you've got a problem and you acknowledge that, then reach out to the government. What I'm saying, and I agree with you, what I'm saying though, there's nothing to reach out to. That's my problem. No government, state or territory or federal are not providing the right amount of help. A case in point is Jackie Lambie in Tasmania. She keeps saying to the federal government, put more beds. I think, I'm just going to make the number up, but it's, so they've only got 100 beds for rehab, but they have one of the highest uses of drugs in the country, but they've only got 100 beds. So yes, once you accept that you've got a problem, that's fantastic. That's really good. And it's the only way that you can overcome something like that. However, once you overcome it,
it's not the only way, though.
There's nowhere to go to.
It's not the only way. It's not the only way. Look, I'm telling you, what government assistance did I have to be able to take a hold of a really big problem that I had in my life? Like, what government assistance did I had? It was about looking for some strength and some determination and relying on friends and family. And it came from a place of acknowledgement. Most of my friends, my mum wouldn't have even known, but people wouldn't have known that I was a functioning alcohol user and drug user. And it did come down to me acknowledging that and reaching out to the very basics, being friends and family. I get what you're saying, and you're saying, but the government is only a small part of it. Do you know what I'm saying?
But an important part. And the great thing about you, Ben, is you are a strong character. And I am just so grateful you've come through that. And I'm sure you have days where it would be easy to spiral back. We all have very tough days. But I think what Robbo's saying, and seriously, I come back to it. You guys sound like you're disagreeing, but you're actually much closer in this argument than you think. All Robbo is saying is that as a government who looks after its people, we need more resources in this area for those who are reaching out. You had friends, you had family, and that is fantastic. Not everybody does. People need outside help. And as a society that looks after the weaker members of a society, we need to be there to help them and help people get through this. It's tough out there, and especially when you don't have a support system like you do. The fact that you had friends taking you to the gym, it sounds like you had a core group of people around you who were trying to help you get through this. Some people don't have that.
And by sharing this information, I want to break down a stereotype that exists within the media. When people think of someone who's a drug and alcohol user, they think of a druggie. They've got this picture that's painted. That they don't realize is that their boss could be going through this, their neighbor could be going through this. There is a stereotype that needs to be broken down, that just because you have been or are using drugs and alcohol to cope, that stereotype is that, they don't seem to fit into that box. So I'm just trying to say to people that it happens to everybody. And, I think and look, we've probably talked about this enough, and I think it's just an important thing to be able to share your story. And I think sharing your story is far more powerful than people realize, and they should do it more often when they're using a platform.
Oh, look, and I think that's a fair point, and I applaud you, and thank you very much for sharing your story, Ben. What I love about having the two people on this show that I have is that they open up like nobody's business. They share their stories, both you and Robbo, and I'd like to think myself sometimes. We are very honest in our opinions, and we're very honest about ourselves, but what you have shown today is pure honesty, and I agree that talking about it and normalising what people are going through in the shadows is really, really powerful and really important. So thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. All right, let's move on to some other hot button topics now. And just a few weeks ago, it seemed like the Black Lives Matter protests were all we could talk about. We saw peaceful protests turn into riots. We had Trump tweeting, and you could then be forgiven for thinking that everything's gone silent and everything's okay. But the protests haven't stopped. Have a look at this. This footage we're seeing here is New York, It's the 30th day in a row of protesting, and across the United States, racial tensions and demand for action continue. Peaceful vigils have also been held this past week for Elijah McClain, a young black man killed at the hands of police last year. Despite the mourners merely playing the violin in his honour, police disrupted the event. Have a look at this.
Gotta be kidding me. No!
Robbo, why does the media not want to show these protesters in a peaceful light? You know, like this, the peaceful protests are not at the front of the news, and they're also not reporting on the unnecessary violence here is because the news cycle's moved on?
You know, it's the really sad thing, Rob. You know, you and I know the old saying, if it bleeds, it leads, which is basically, you know, that governs what news does, especially in this 24-hour news cycle. Unless something big happens again, we've moved on. That is, media gives you what the majority want, right? So people used to say that Today, Tonight, and A Current Affair, they're awful programs and blah, blah, blah. They rated in the millions, you know, and A Current Affairs still rates very high. It's what the people want. So if the people as a whole wanted to see more of these, you know, just the same kind of stories that we've seen, then the media would do that. So it's this two-edged sword, I think. You know, you give what will rate, and if it doesn't rate, you don't do it. Rob, I actually really want to know your thoughts on this because, you know, as a media executive, you would have had to have made these decisions before. And, you know, you can't keep doing day after day after day after day of protests if nothing different is happening. Isn't that right?
No, the police crashing a violinist is a bit of news because it's just why? You know, like, I mean, of all the pressure police are getting to do that, it's just stupid from a PR point of view.
I would suggest that was probably a, you know, a third segment in the 6 p.m. news where they say it's certainly not the leading story. That's what I'm asking you. You know, I agree with you.
You said the word yourself. Story. If it bleeds, it leads. News services, especially our 5, 6 p.m. news services, they want excitement. They want stories. So when there was protests and statues falling down, that's why it led the news. The fact that protests are peaceful, it's not really that much of a news story. And so it comes back to me, and it's funny, I've been thinking about this a lot today, and I actually may have been critical of the protesters when we were talking about it because they were tearing up houses and looting, and I just didn't care for that. But it put this movement on the world stage. Everything has been flowing on now about Black Lives Matter. You know, to the point where it goes too far when we're talking about TV and shows being pulled and episodes and all that kind of stuff. But there is a real movement happening. And would that have happened with peaceful protests? And I'm actually not so sure that it would. So I'm actually coming around to the fact that if you want real change, Ben, maybe you actually have to go the whole hog. The one thing I've always found bizarre is when courts decide whether a protest can go ahead or not. Isn't a protest about protesting against the man and against the machine? And this idea that you can legislate whether a protest can go ahead has never made sense to me. But I'm actually starting to think that if you really want a message out there and you want to get onto these news services, you have to break a few eggs.
Yeah, I think so. I think at the end of the day, though, we need to think about things a little bit differently. You know, it's really funny. We had Heidi last night on Ion Big Brother, and we were talking about how she had shaped her career very early on working in regional radio. And lots of people in regional radio are fighting over trying to move up the ranks and get to the metro environment. How do you create a voice? How do you stand out above everybody else? And when it comes to these protests, I think that we need to think about how, in which, and why we protest in 2020. And I think that, you know, gathering in masses isn't the right thing to do at the moment because of COVID-19. Yes. How can we start to think about getting our message across in different ways? How do we get the media's attention without having to be abhorrent? Like, we need to start thinking about new ways of getting our message across in, you know, with integrity. And
without money, it's very difficult, Ben, because the news wants...
I know, but you know what? Heidi didn't have any money to get the message across to stand out in her regional environment, and that's the thing. Is like it doesn't always come down to money. I think you can create a voice and you can create a platform out of nothing. You know.
I think there's definitely truth to that, but when you're trying to get a movement happening, I don't know what the answer is, because it's just not that easy, and especially if you are trying to get coverage on the news services, and being very clever about it, maybe doing smart kind of protesting, something that gives the news a bit of colour, because that's really what it is. They want the excitement of a protest, or they want the colour of something quirky. You know, the fact is that they don't care about the actual world good. They're after ratings and making their news service seem interesting, and that's the fact. Look, our world-famous kangaroo logo has been demoted to make way for our national flower, the wattle. Australia's Nation Brand Advisory Council is behind the decision to ditch Skippy in favour of this. They reckon that using the kangaroo just reinforces what everyone already knows about Australia, and this logo will be able to showcase that we're more than just our lovable macropod. The Daily Telegraph reports that from over 3,000 people surveyed, a whopping 96% supported our national marsupial as depicted in the Australian-made logo. Robbo. Wankfest!
Sorry. Yes, it's a wankfest. It's a circle jerk. It's a wankfest.
This is a load of creative saying, we don't want to be depicted by the kangaroo because we're so seen as the kangaroo. So that's a wattle. Can we bring up the new logo, please, Amanda?
Yes.
You can't even tell this is a wattle.
No.
This is, you're exactly right, Rob. I hate this kind of stuff. You know what we need? We need everyday people on boards like this. So I'm going to say this right now. If you've got a board that's supplied by the government, you need to have 3 or 4 people randomly selected. They apply for it, but they are everyday people, because I'll tell you right now that on that board you've got Andrew Forrest, so mining billionaire. You've got a playwright, nothing against the arts, but bit arty-farty. You've got Alan Joyce, who earns stupid amounts of money. There are no real people on that. I think that's what we could do differently, is get real people onto government bodies, onto government boards, because that, as one person said on the Daily Telegraph website, looks like the coronavirus. Also, someone else also said that hey guys, you forgot Australia. Look,
and the thing is, you have a brand like the kangaroo version that is identifiable, made in Australia. It says everything. But let me tell you the thinking behind the new logo. The contemporary pan-Indigenous design is a unique symbol that depicts recognisably ubiquitous and timeless Aboriginal art elements. Dots of irregular shape and placement, their spontaneous circular distribution following radiating lines and clustered configurations. The new branding is, the report said, elegantly and undoubtedly Australian. Undoubtedly Australian? Piss off.
Can I suggest to you, I would have liked to have seen, honestly, we've got so many great Indigenous artists in this country, and I also think that is very, very, relatable and understandable and recognisable of Australia. I would have much rathered, and I would have accepted it far easier, if we had, one of those beautiful dot paintings that First Nations people do. That to me is Australia
of
more
the Australian-made
than this
logo
bloody
that currently
wattle.
is. I would love that if an Aboriginal artist interpreted the Australian-made logo as it currently is.
Yep.
That'd be great, because the logo is daggy, right? Let's make no bones about it. It's daggy. So redesign it, 3D it. I love your idea of the Aboriginal art. Robbo, why aren't we giving you $50,000 just to commission this? Although, let me tell you, companies like BMD Clemenger would have earned a lot more than $50,000 for this.
That's right. I was going to say to you, I was like, why are you giving me short change, 50 grand? They would have got like 500 grand to develop this stupid idea over, 6 months, and here you go, and all the bureaucrats.
And because you can't keep what you've got, because otherwise you're not making your money. When you pay, Ben, for something like this, you're basically saying you've got to change it, because they can't come back and say, no, the logo you've got's pretty good. We're just gonna update it a bit.
Yeah, but it kind of felt like they missed the brief. Like even when you were reading that out with that delightful accent, by the way, probably one of the best yet. It just seemed like, I mean, have you got the brief in front of you on that piece of paper?
It's on the ground.
Have you still got it?
Oh,
That piece
sorry.
of paper there?
It's on the ground. It's on the ground.
Can you,
In dramatic effect, he threw it down.
Sorry, I got a
you
bit
just-
distracted.
can you rip
Ben.
it up?
I got a note from our producers saying, Rob McKnight, you're coming across as a real arsehole. Ha, ha, ha. Your voice is hilarious, but reading about Indigenous artwork like that, this is...
That's not the point. No,
This
that's
is not
bloody stupid.
Indigenous
That's not the
artwork.
point.
No, this is
No,
not
no, that's
Indigenous
not the point
artwork.
of what you said. No,
Thank you,
it's a-
Robbo.
no,
I was just
not
gonna
at
get you to
all were
rip it
you
up
saying
because
that.
It sounded like that. Was it Clemenger? I'm not too sure who.
Yeah,
the agency
B&D
was, but
Clemenger.
Did they rip that the brief up? I mean, they obviously didn't read the play with what they were trying to come across with. I mean, that looks like a Christmas decoration to me. Like it looks like a really nice snowflake.
Yes.
That'd look nice on my tree. They've completely missed anything that really
It is
represents
so dumb.
Australia.
Anyone
at all.
in
I
the
mean,
world,
Yeah.
and there are versions that have the word Australia through the centre of it, but anywhere in the world, no one is going to look at that and think Australia. You know, like a
What about
good
if they
brand
shaped
doesn't
that
need
gold-
the name, right? So you take the Australia and the AU out of it, you should be able to identify what it is, right? Any
Correct,
good brand,
correct.
like the Nike
hang on
logo,
a sec.
Coca-Cola,
100%.
you should be able to take the brand name off and
Yep.
recognise it. No one's going to recognise that ball of cluster as anything Australian. Whereas you see that kangaroo on the green, you know what you're talking about. Sorry, Ben, go on.
Oh, I just was going to say, like, it feels like they didn't even, like, how, they seem really stupid, these graphic designers that put it together, because why didn't they make it the shape of Australia? Like, why is it a circle? Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand.
that's good. Good point.
Good point.
Great
good
point.
Like, seriously, next time, federal government, because I know that Media Monitors watches this show and does reports. Prime Minister
I know.
Scott Morrison to the Tourism Australia Board. I'm dropping all these names so it comes up in their feeds. Next time, let the Ben, Rob and Robbo show and the people that follow this show design and produce something because we are the people. We get the people
that's
and
what I'm
our
saying.
viewers. This is just
If
BS.
there are government advisory boards, then put say you've got 8 people, right? So put your 6, arty-farty billionaires, people who don't live in the real world, by the way. No, but that's true, right? Andrew Forrest, for all the good he does for Indigenous people, he doesn't live in the real world. He chairs this bloody commission.
Yeah.
So why don't we it needs to be kind of a rule now that if you've got 8 board seats, 6 of them are, your cronies and your friends, and 2 of them are everyday Aussies, one from WA, one from Queensland, and on another board it's one from New South Wales, one from Victoria, who are real people, not these bloody people who don't live in the real world. I will challenge Andrew Forrest to tell me how much 2 litres of milk cost. I bet he can't tell me. But he'll give me a shitty logo about it, though.
To nude wrestling or something like that. I don't know why that came into mind.
Maybe in those focus groups they were
I
drinking.
mean, if he's
and I
paying,
was
I'll
gonna
do it. I'll do anything for money.
Maybe the people in the focus group were drinking. You know, when you go along to those focus groups and everyone's having a few wines and sitting back and having a chat, like how much wine did they give them? Like it seems to me like it would have been great if we had Reggie for this segment because Reggie's really good. with this
I
stuff,
know
although
what
the
Reggie would have
segment
said. Reggie would just
It's
said,
shit.
that's shit. And that would have been the end
Yeah.
of the discussion. Anyway, we've gone
I know,
on
but we
about a
managed
crap
to push it
logo
on
for
for 5
way
minutes.
too long. Let's move to our final topic. So they're the famous faces of rock, but have you ever wondered what they looked like when they were younger? BuzzFeed has compiled a list of stars then and now. Here are some of our favourites. Let's go to the first one. And that's David Bowie, as you know him. And this is the Labyrinth star back in the day. Wow.
Yes, it's a yes from me. It's a yes. The nose is kind of the same, I think. But that's that's a photo that I haven't seen of David Bowie.
No,
I haven't seen that photo of David
either.
Bowie before. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I love his tie.
Let's go into
Sorely
Jimi
missed.
Hendrix as seen here.
Oh yeah.
So there's Jimmy. And this is the reggae star in his younger days. Lord.
Now, what I'm worried about
military
this,
man.
we can't see it at the moment, but we've actually lost the H. He must have added the H because his little
can we take the ticker off for a
tag
second, Amanda?
there- His little tag there says Hendrix.
Ah,
So there's another little chicken nugget for you, everyone.
there you go.
Wow.
Okay, let's go to the Queen of Nutbush, Tina Turner now. There she is, as we know and love her. And this is a little while back for Tina. She hasn't changed a bit. There's no difference there.
Legs 11. Yeah, she looks like Beyonce.
And finally,
yeah.
the man who will outlive us all, including the cockroaches. This is Keith Richards now.
Oh, yeah.
It makes me laugh. And this is him
Yes.
back then. Oh,
Now, Rob,
geez.
I understand, breaking news, I understand that photo was taken at about 1874. And
When cameras
he was
first
already
came
quite
out.
old. That's right. That's right. So we understand that's him now. We believe that he's 250 years old now. But what a wonderful man.
Now, we thought we'd get some old photos of us. Who have you got there first, Amanda? We've got Ben. Let's bring up
Benny.
Ben. Oh, he
Woo,
doesn't look
look
happy.
at those
Ben,
acid watch jeans.
do you know what my first thought was? I thought that was your partner, Ben.
Oh, well, we
Yeah,
do
they
look very
the
similar.
same. Yeah.
You really
Yeah,
do.
they do.
Obsessed with myself.
And maybe
You
it's
can see
because I've never seen a smile on Ben's face. No, I'm joking.
Oh, you bitch.
I think that-
You bitch.
I think if you put some money in our bank account, then I think he'd smile. You've been burnt.
Let's
Wait, really quickly. Can we get Ben to do the same face?
Hang on one sec. I know Ben watches this show every day, as he really does support us. I am joking, Ben.
I just heard a massive thud in the lounge room, so I just, I'm
Ben,
not sure what
can
that
you
is
do that
about.
face for us again? Do that face for us. Do the same face. Here we go. That's what it looks like now. Then. Very concerned.
Someone didn't
I
get their
sent like
lollipop.
5 photos through. That was the weirdest photo I sent. I was like, anyway.
Well,
That's why I chose
you give
it.
him choices. What do you expect? All right, let's bring up Robbo. This is Robbo.
Oh,
then,
look at
and
this.
Oh my gosh.
This is at the Year 12 formal. Look at that, just a casual guy leaning against a wire chair with a 3/4 length jacket there. And also the colour of my tie and my little handkerchief there matched my date's dress.
Oh,
Yes,
lovely.
it was a girl.
What a
Yeah,
lovely
and that
touch.
bum
That's
part
cool.
there. He's so
yes.
casual. Anyway, Rob.
Yes, all right. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, just up against a brick wall. Hey, girls. Hey, how are ya?
Not a good
Robbie
colour. I should
McKnight.
have fixed
You
the
with the
colouring on the
debutante
photo. It was either this one or the one where I've got I've peroxide my hair when I went to Disneyland in 2000, and I thought I'd save that one for another day. Yeah,
Okay.
there
How
are
old were you in
photos of me
2000?
with Mickey Mouse where I was working for the Disney Channel at the time, and I
I've
have
seen the photos.
I have
Yeah,
white hair, and then there's another version where I have orange hair because I didn't use enough peroxide.
What year did you marry Amanda?
2002.
So hopefully you got rid of that hair by then.
Yes. I keep threatening to do it again, and she won't have it. Oh my God, it's 1:37. We've completely gone
would
over
love that.
time.
Oops, sorry.
We've been
Sorry.
talking for a very long time. Should
We
cross
really
the
have.
ticker at the
All
news?
right. Look, you know what we'll do? We'll go and get the latest news headlines. See if Aaron Young is still there. We'll go and get the latest news headlines from Aaron Young
Go
at
on,
the
Aaron.
Ticker News room.
Thanks, Rob. Let's check some of today's top stories from Ticker. The Prime Minister announcing a $270 billion cash splash on defence. The money will be used to pay for a cyber defence army purchase, long-range maritime missiles and land strike capabilities. Scott Morrison says we need to prepare for a more dangerous and disorderly post-COVID-19 world. The United States coronavirus death toll is on track to reach over 180,000 people. The projection for the number of infections in the US has now been reset to 3.8 million people. Globally, there have been more than 10 million known cases and more than 510,000 reported deaths. We bring this back to Victoria, where 10 postcodes now head into stage 3 lockdown restrictions as of midnight tonight. Facebook's agreed to audit the way it controls hate speech. The move follows a growing campaign to boycott advertisements on the social media platform. Major advertisers like Unilever and Starbucks signing up to a boycott that's now prompted action from the world's biggest social media platform. And this is a story for all the Android users out there. Soon AirDrop won't just be exclusive to us iPhone users. Google announcing plans developing a similar function called Nearby Share. Let's have a look at the weather map now for today, for this Wednesday. The remainder of the day, Melbourne a sunny top, and mild, 17 degrees Sydney, 20 degrees Brisbane, some clouds and 23 degrees overcast for Perth and Adelaide, sunny but cloudy and 19 degrees. The local market started off pretty soft. It's had somewhat of a recovery though, entering positive territory, marching up to 1% gains today, still under the 6,000 levels. Taking its lead from Wall Street though, this is how things look there, also up under 1%, but good news, positive news. This is because the numbers show that US retail figures doing better, consumers feeling better than had previously been thought. That's the latest news from Ticker. Now back to the Ben, Rob and Robbo show.
Thank you, Aaron. Very interesting with the stock exchange there. Thank you. Well, it's a game where you never know what will happen next. From backstabbing to blindsides, this is a very different Big Brother than any series that has come before. And last night, Hannah was evicted from the house. But before Ben speaks to her, let's see how it played out.
With one vote, Sophie. Which means, Hannah, you received 5 votes and sadly have been evicted from the Big Brother house.
Okay, I love you. And you know what? It's wrong.
Well, Hannah, thank you so much for being able to join us this afternoon on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. The numbers were simply just not in your favour, and Marissa says that it was wrong. How do you feel about it now?
Gosh, looking back at it and rewatching it, it's sad. I really thought I had the numbers to stay in the game, but I didn't. I was actually blindsided at the end of it. I thought Kieran and Marissa were going to save me.
Yeah, I was really shocked that you didn't get Kieran's vote just because it felt like he was going to, be supportive.
Yeah,
Has this created any rivalry between? Has this created any rivalry between maybe you and Sophie?
No, definitely not. I'm so proud of Soph. I hope she carries on and beats the boys. Yeah, hope some of the girls start standing up to the boys.
Now, this is the question I think that a lot of people have for you. When you were introduced on the show, we saw a beautiful clip of a relationship that you have with your grandmother. What did Grandma have to say about Hannah's time in the Big Brother house?
Oh, it was amazing. And do you know what? During COVID, it actually gave my nonna a purpose. You know, they were all stuck and they were in lockdown at her retirement village, but they've had Big Brother to watch. And, you know, them also seeing me in the newspaper and in magazines, you know, gives them something to talk about. So it's actually brought so much excitement to my nonna's retirement village, which is pretty special to me.
Well, it's pretty special to be able to share that relationship, and it was really heartwarming. Now, I need to ask you, we need to go back to a little moment at the start of the series where you and Talia butted heads. Now, when you watched that on the TV, how do you think that relationship came across?
Gosh, honestly, I knew it was bad in the house, but I didn't know it was that bad because I didn't obviously know about what she was saying behind my back. I could sense that yeah, she didn't really like me being in the house. But at the end of the day, I was an intruder. I was coming in late and, you know, she didn't want 4 more people in the house. And I guess I was her first target. So, yeah, I understand where she was coming from.
Well, I just kind of want to know because, the game plan strategy for you has been debated really much, a lot online overnight, with a lot of people saying that you sat back and were coasting and that might have been your strategy. What we see as viewers is not necessarily a reflection of what happens in the house. Can I just ask you, was your strategy to sit back, or do you think that that is just a turn of events with the editing?
No, well, to be honest, at the end of the day, I didn't know I was coming in as an intruder, and I dropped into that cage and I was put up for eviction in my first 24 hours, and that really threw me out. And from that moment on, I realised, you know, I've got to sit back and watch how this game plays if I want to stay in. So my gameplay was to kill people with kindness, and I did do that. I didn't manipulate anyone. I didn't lie to anyone. I stayed loyal to myself, and I'm proud of myself. But I think if I did go into the house as an OG housemate, I would have had a different different style to my game. But it was just hard at the end of the day. I had to try and save myself every single day. No one likes an intruder. It was hard coming in late.
Well, we're reading all of this on the Daily Mail at the moment, and it seems like the real drama was saved for after the show. Some of these screen grabs have emerged into the media with a bit of a debate happening between Garth and Angela. Why do you think that debate has really only just started on the group chat now? Because there really was some solidarity on that group chat to start with, and now it seems to be starting to take a turn for the worst. Why do you think that is?
I think because everyone's emotions are high, everyone's actually finding out now what people are saying behind their backs on the show because, we don't know. We're watching this the same time as everyone else. So it's a shock to a lot of people, and a lot of people are getting upset. Like, I was upset watching, the girls call me a bitch and a try-hard. But, yeah, I guess it's just everyone's emotions, and it's people deal with it differently in the show, and a lot of people are just dealing with it in the group message.
Well, last two questions for you. COVID-19 is going to be a big part of the storyline coming up this Sunday, which is just after you've left the house. Did you have any sense of what was happening in Australia and around the world up until your eviction, or did you just find out about it after you left the house?
No, we were told about it in the house when I was there, but not to the extent. So I didn't know how crazy the world was going to be till I actually got evicted, and it was not what I expected. It was 500 times worse. It was weird. It was a weird feeling. It was weird. That's all I can explain it as. Crazy and weird. Nothing I've ever experienced in my life.
Well, I definitely would be a massive culture shock, being in the house. But at the same time, I guess these housemates probably feel a little bit protected. It could be the safest house in Australia to self-isolate.
Oh, yeah, gosh, we were the safest people in Australia. And I'm so glad I was there for, the month where it was pretty crazy. But then coming out, I was going through Sydney Airport, and there was hardly anyone there. But the few people that were there, they were all in masks. And I looked a little bit odd because, I wasn't prepared for this. I didn't have a mask. I didn't know what was happening in the world. It was mayhem.
Well, Hannah, what is the biggest take home from your Big Brother experience? What did you learn?
What I learned, to never give up. You know what? I was up for eviction in my first 24 hours, and I could have just given it up all up then. But, I kept my head high, and I pushed through. So I'm proud of myself.
Well, I absolutely hope that you continue to enjoy your Big Brother experience. I think that as a group, you will find solidarity, I think, once the show finishes, because you'll be able to reflect on something really amazing and something that it's so unique that as a small group that you've shared together. Wishing you all the best of luck.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you.
It's the red light shot of the day. Where are you going today? You never know where you'll end up with the random life shot of the day.
Today we're taking you to Venice, Italy. It's going to be a mostly sunny day today with a top of 28 degrees after a low of 22. Summer over there at the moment. Look at that. The light is coming up as the city wakes up, but everyone's staying indoors, I think. It's only about 5:47 there or something at the moment. Look, we're going to do some feedback. Peter says there was a lot of drug use in queer circle. Love Ben's honesty. Alcohol is also used for the same reasons. Suicide is part of the mental health discussion. And that's absolutely true, Peter. And yes, we all love Ben's discussion. Don't forget you can go to Lifeline on... what's that Lifeline number? I just had it up. My apologies.
13 11 14.
13 11 14. Thank you so much, Robbo. Appreciate that. And there's also places like Beyond Blue that you can go to just for referrals to go to those places. Nicole says, Ben, some people don't have the supports in friends and family. Some are not strong enough to speak up and pull themselves up. Janelle says, gentlemen, thank you for your honesty. I'm sitting here in tears and listening and agreeing. We have Amanda saying the new logo, this is on the Australia-made logo, the new logo looks like the images that we have been using for COVID-19 in just a different colour. Leah talking about Robbo's outfit, the colour of the tie, wrong burgundy. Robbo.
I don't like that.
Janelle says Robbo looked a tad like Daniel from Big Brother this year.
It's the nose. It's the nose that does it. I've got a massive Jewish nose. So
yes. All right, now it's time for my favourite segment of the week. This is where we go down the rabbit hole with our good friend Bruno Bouchet. Good afternoon, Bruno.
Hey guys, good afternoon.
Hello,
How's it
Bruno.
Going?
Bruno, are you
Bruno,
coming
look at
to us live? Sorry, are you coming to
Sorry,
us
Bruno,
live
you look
from
a bit
some kind of
sexy.
weird sex club? What's
It's
your background?
A bar.
Is that a sex club?
No, see, you got to be over 18.
okay.
Bar, order drinks from.
Hang on,
No,
is this a
you've
bit of
never
product
been to
placement?
one
Do I
before?
need to ring the bell?
No, Bruno, sorry.
Or did you literally say, I'm at the bar, mate, can I set up my camera? Just got to do a quick thing while I have a few.
Yeah, can everyone just be a little bit quiet and, while I talk to my friends about the top 3 Australian companies I miss like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, talk
These
us
keep
through
me up
this.
at night. Yeah, these companies, I'm so sad that they're gone because just thinking about them now, it just brings back such amazing memories of how big these companies once were in Australia. So I'm going to give you a little top 3 countdown of the companies. And guys, at number 3, we go with Video Easy.
Oh, the good old
Now,
Video Easy. Yeah, we always used to go to Video Easy on the weekend.
Yeah, and it was such an Australian success story. Like, it started in the 80s in Hurstville, Sydney. They were renting out like VHS and Betamax. And before you knew it, they had like 600 nationally. And they were so big that they actually bought out Blockbuster in Australia. Like, these guys were giant. And, they are where they are now. In fact, just down the road, they've got one of the little self-serve kiosks where you can rent out DVDs. I've never used one before. I don't know if you guys have.
No, I haven't used those. I stream everything.
No, and I'll tell you what I miss the most about Video Easy. As opposed to Blockbuster, they had that little section at the back with the beads. You know, the adult section, and as a kid, you'd have a little peek, and you're like, "Ooh, BBW, what's you know?"
So true.
And just to bring back a little bit of nostalgia, I've got the ad to play you, but I want you to watch for something because in it, I was 100% certain that you see a very quick glimpse of a young James Tobin. And I hit him up on Twitter and I was like, dude, you're in this old school Video Easy ad. And he denies it. He says, oh, no, that's not me. But I'd like to get your opinion. You'll know who I'm talking about. He's a young corporate guy in the ad. So please tell me if I'm tripping, but I'm still sure that it's him, even though he says that it's not him.
Okay.
Relax, 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 relax,
I don't know. Did you catch? Did you catch a glimpse?
Play that again. I didn't see him at all. But hang on, go again, please. It's coming.
When you're too tense, it's common sense to relax.
Yeah, that was him.
You're in your prime.
He's just at the beginning, Amanda, so we're fine. Yeah, I'm going to call BS on what James is saying there.
That's definitely him.
Looks like him.
That's James Tobin.
Yeah. Come on, JT, own up to it. What's your number 2, Bruno?
Guys, number 2, it's Ansett Australia.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yes. These guys were giant, started in 1935, and they had so many planes that to put it into context nowadays, they'd be the size of Etihad Airways, right? Like these guys weren't small fry.
No.
And we should really blame the Kiwis for stuffing up
New
Ansett.
Zealanders, that's right.
Yeah, they bought it out, and it is where it is now in nostalgia land.
I do remember, Bruno, when Ansett went down, the biggest issue out of it was everyone complaining about losing their points, not about the jobs that went a competitive airline or anything like that. Everyone was worried about their points.
Yeah, and they had so many celebrities that were like, "Oh yes, I'm an Ansett flyer. I like the Ansett difference." I don't know how it all went down the gurgler. Well, I do. Virgin came into the market and absolutely annihilated them. So, look, I've got a cool little ad which is just so back then. And by the way, you look at the ad now with our post September 11 vision, and you'll have a bit of a laugh about how relaxed things were back in the glorious Ansett days.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Morning.
Hello. I'm at 6:25 to Brisbane.
It's boarding now, but I think we can sneak you on, Mr. Barry.
Will I miss it?
No one can miss that, sir. We'll do our best. Gate 3.
Thank you.
Have a great flight.
Excuse me, please. Thank you. Bye, 3, mate.
What's yours?
Revolting, huh?
Aw.
Love it now.
You know what? Hearing the little sung opera bit, it does like give me goosebumps. It was such a nice way for the ad to be done. But do you notice that the guy doesn't
Bruno,
go through security?
Maybe we just didn't
Sorry,
see
Bruno,
the
I was
security
gonna
part,
say-
Bruno. Oh, no, there
Well,
wasn't
no,
any
okay.
security.
I agree with Bruno.
Yeah, security's
I
a
was
really
just
big
gonna
thing in getting onto a plane. He just breezed through security, and also he had a pleasant airline person at the check-in counter. Like, that's fake. That's fake news. When's that ever happened? You know? Oh,
Never.
I think we can get you on. Yes. I know you ran late. We can get you on. In fact, we'll drive you on the tarmac to get you onto the Can you imagine that
It's very
nowadays?
true.
A sniper
Different
would have
world.
shot you. Yeah.
That's very true. Just really quickly, though, if you want a dose of nostalgia, there is a great Australian band called Client Liaison who does this wonderful song called Foreign Affair, and it's got Tina Arena in it, and they use Ansett. They've got Ansett planes. They've got Ansett logos. It's a really great little film.
I love that.
Yeah, check
you
it
not
out.
seen it? It's amazing.
Sorry, Bruno.
I'll
All right, we
I
better
shall
get
put
to
it
your
on my
number
to-do
one,
list.
Bruno.
And guys,
Yeah.
at number one, and this company, I could cry right now thinking about them. Guys, it's OneTel.
Oh,
I can still remember the jingle. Tell your friends
Yeah, you
about
tell your friends
OneTel.
about- Yeah, exactly. And look, this started in '95, and there were some big backers. You had the Packers, you had the Murdochs, and the company within a few years went global. Like, it was
Yeah, I
worth
was with
close
them.
to close to $5 or $6 billion. And they had this handsome guy here called the Dude, and that was some marketing person's creation of like, hey, this is what 20 and 30-year-olds are into. Some kind of stoner guy that's like, I'm a dude.
it's almost as bad as the new logo for Australia.
Yeah, and so look, rest in. By the way, I still don't quite understand, because I was doing my research on OneTel, and I was still trying to figure out how you lose $6 billion. Like, reading it, it's like, oh, they expanded, they were worth $6 billion, and then they went under. It's like, well, where does the $6 billion go?
Yeah, and it all happened
missing
very
something.
quickly. But have you got an ad of
And
this one, Bruno?
Yeah. And this one's good nostalgia. Have a watch.
My best friend Katie. She's living in Canada for a year, so she's working really hard.
Parents, back home in Italy. See the resemblance?
I couldn't believe how much I was spending on long-distance calls.
Anyway, our phone bill went right through the roof.
We like to talk. But my phone bill was unbelievable.
Then a friend said, why don't you try OneTel?
First time I seen him open a bill and actually smile.
I dial 1478, then I relax, because I'm getting OneTel's cheap rate.
You tell your friends about OneTel.
Register with OneTel now. 9221 8833.
Hey guys,
I miss the old days.
really quick, don't call that phone number. It belongs to a powerful Sydney-based barrister. I'm not even kidding. So
Did you call it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah?
Of course you did. Of course you did.
I'm trying to be thorough. But don't you love the over-the-top, tell my kids to do the call.
I'm very happy. I like it to
You
talk.
couldn't get away with that now. You'd be cancelled.
No.
As OneTel was.
It
So
never stops
maybe that
me,
was
Bruno.
the final nail in the coffin. Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Mate,
Bruno, really
always-
quickly, Bruno, you had to say goodbye to someone there or shush them. What happened? Is someone in the bar?
Yeah,
before when
they
you went-
wanted to ask me a question. So I'll go on Twitter and I'll tell you what the question was.
I hope it was good. Bruno, we will see you next week.
Thanks, Bruno.
Always love your segment. Thank you very much, mate.
Thanks, buddy.
And that brings us to the end of the Ben, Robin, Robbo Show. Thank you for your company today. What a whirlwind of a show. Ben, you are a legend for speaking out the way you have earlier today. Thank you for your raw honesty, and that's all we've ever wanted from you. So thank you for that, my friend. And you're getting a lot of love on social media for the way you openly spoke. So thank you. Robbo, you were here too.
I was here too.
It's my favourite joke of all time.
Just to steal your joke.
Yeah. All right. We will see you tomorrow as we stream around the world at 1 o'clock through Ticker TV and BRR Show on Facebook. See you tomorrow.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.